Hello, everyone. Madison Wozniak here, FMC Tech Service. I cover southwestern Indiana, a portion of Illinois, and eastern Missouri. And today we are standing in a wheat field. You can see that it's completely headed out, and it's actually beyond the head scab treatment stage. But we're not going to be talking about fungicides today. We're going to be talking about herbicides because this is the location that housed my weed control study that I implemented on the farm. So really the premise here was just getting a better idea of the challenges that growers across my region are facing and then potential solutions that we could be providing them. It's not uncommon for growers to call in the spring and say, hey, how do I control weed X, Y, and Z? What's going to be the best path forward? And then also discussing the challenges with making those applications in the spring. So let's think about that. It's not uncommon for Mother Nature to be working against us in terms of rainfall. It could be very difficult to get the sprayer across the acre if it's really wet, to make those applications in a timely fashion while those weeds are still little and easy to control. Not only that, fluctuating temperatures. We know in the spring that it often jumps back and forth between warm and cold, and we really, as a good rule of thumb, would like to see those herbicide applications being made when temperatures are at 50 degrees or above for at least a few days. This is going to increase the consistency of our weed control. But not only that, it's going to help mitigate against any adverse crop response that we may see with certain chemistries made in adverse conditions. And so I did things a little bit differently. I actually geared all of my herbicide applications for the fall. And I wanted to evaluate how different products differentiated from each other and then what they looked like come springtime. So to give you a good idea of what's going on at this location, I had a lot of henbit, quite a bit of common chickweed, and a little bit of dead nettle. I was disappointed I didn't have any winter annual grasses to evaluate, but that's okay. The three weeds that I had mentioned before are pretty prevalent across the entire region for weed growers to deal with. So I made all those applications at the delayed pre-timing up until the two-leaf stage. I had burnt down this plot area with glyphosate, and then I drilled into the corn residue last fall. One of the things I picked up on from that burn down application, while it was extremely necessary to make sure that I was picking up all of the weeds that I could at that burn down application timing, I wouldn't be terribly surprised if I had some misses at that burn down application timing. That heavy corn residue could have been sheltering some of the weeds that had emerged, and I wasn't able to get through that residue to take them down with the glyphosate. But not only that, most of the winter annual emergence occurred after planting. So those winter annual weeds were coming up along with the wheat. And so I was glad that I was able to have such a dense stand of weeds to be able to evaluate not only the knockdown of some of our wheat herbicides, but also the residual characteristics and how those carried us through to the spring. So we're going to go through some of those treatments today. I'm going to share some of the highlights, and then hopefully you can take something useful back to the farm operation that maybe could be worth implementing on your home farm. So right now I'm standing in the untreated check, kind of in between two planer passes, so that you could get a really good visual of what the weed density looks like in this trial location. So predominantly we're dealing with common chickweed and henbit here at this location at very dense pressure. And I'm excited about that because it's going to allow us to really tease apart some of these treatments for you moving forward. All right, we've made it to our first treatment. This is Axiom. If you're unfamiliar, that is a mixture of metribuzin as well as flufenicet. I made this application at the two-leaf stage using this 6-ounce rate. That's the highest I could go on these coarse sandy soils. So as you can see, we're looking much, much better than the untreated check, but we've still got a decent amount of common chickweed here and a little bit of henbit that made it through. So we're going to move forward and see if there are any other treatments that were made at the same time that are looking a little bit better at this point. Okay, so I'm currently standing in the Anthem Flex treatment. This application was made at the delayed pre-timing. So if you're unfamiliar with the delayed pre-timing, what we mean by that is 80% of the seeds have germinated and have a half-inch shoot. So in warm, moist conditions, that's generally going to occur 2 to 3 days after planting. So Anthem Flex is a mixture of pyroxasulfone and carfentrazone, which is in AIM, if you're familiar. And as you can see, this treatment's looking pretty good, especially in comparison to the untreated check. But Anthem Flex really is a stronger compound for our grasses if you have grass problems in your wheat, but it's going to provide suppression of our winter annual broadleaf weeds. So you can see that in effect right now. We still have a little bit of chickweed and a little bit of henbit. Ultimately, it's looking pretty good. We have made it to the Finesse treatment. If you're not familiar with Finesse, this is a mixture of two ALS chemistries, chlorsulfuron and metsulfuron. And as you can see, I'm walking through the wheat strip right now. It's one of the cleanest treatments that we've been in today. And it's not because we ran out of weed pressure. We certainly did it. On the outside of this plot is the running check. So the density did not change. Finesse is just working very, very well within this entire trial. So this area is in between two planter passes. And as you can see, my Finesse application made it in between these two passes, and it's looking quite clean. And then this is the treatment, the final treatment within the trial ahead of me. So Finesse is going to provide excellent activity against your winter annual broadleaf weeds, as well as picking up some of your winter annual grasses, whether it be annual bluegrass or some of the bromus species. I made this application November 7th at the 2-leaf stage at the 0.3 ounce rate. So something to keep in mind, if you're wanting to utilize Finesse, you want something that's broad spectrum to pick up a lot of your problem weeds in the fall. You're still going to want to gear up with an STS soybean after you cut the wheat and get back into the field with your soybeans. The last treatment I'm going to show you guys today is Harmony Extra plus Culex, and I applied both of those at the 0.75 ounce use rate at the 2-leaf stage this past fall. And as you can see, it's looking really, really good from a weed control perspective. It picked up a lot of those winter annual broadleaf weeds, which is what I would expect from those two compounds. But one thing to keep in mind, if this was a site with grass pressure, we probably wouldn't be as happy with this treatment because neither of those compounds are going to perform against grasses the way that Anthem Flex or even a Finesse would. But at this site where we're heavy on the chickweed and we're heavy on the henbit, it looked really good throughout the entire trial.